Susan Wright was born 1976 in Houston, Texas. At 17, she worked as a waitress in Galveston, which is where she would meet and start a romantic relationship with a man named Jeff Wright. The two would meet in 1997, and by 1998 they would be married and would be expecting their first child. By 2002 they would be expecting a second, and later that year daughter Kaylee would be born. Things would move fast and in all appearances would be going great for the pair, but in January of 2003, 5 years into their marriage and less than a year after the birth of their daughter, Susan would call her attorney with a shocking admission. Per her attorney's advice, Susan would turn herself into the police and admit that she had killed and buried her husband in her own yard. In self-defense, Susan would claim that Jeff had become abusive to her and her son following an addiction to cocaine, and that her actions were committed to protect her and her children. She would put on a great show, swaying much of the public to her side. But that would change after the autopsy, when the extent of her actions would be made public. It would be discovered that Susan had seduced Jeff into bed and tied his wrists to the bed frame, and using 2 different knives, would cut and slash and stab Jeff all over his body. A total of 193 times. From his feet to his legs, from his stomach to his chest, from his neck to his face. And even on his member. The extent of her assault was baffling, and during the trial the press would dub her the Blue-Eyed Butcher. After the crime, she would use a dolly to move his body, bleach to clean the room, and would even paint the walls to cover up any evidence. Despite her attempts to portray herself as the victim, the evidence told a different story, and in March of 2004 Susan Wright would be convicted of her husband's murder. She would be sentenced to 25 to life, but on New Year's Eve of 2020, 18 years into her sentence, Susan Wright would be released on parole at the age of 44. She is currently living as a free woman. She is single, in case you're interested.